Yeah, there's a lot of folks who don't have that, right? And they come to schools like my Lee, she was like, my professors would not know me beyond like a number. They might like maybe have seen my face, and the sizes of the sheer size, it was like you show up and
the
you had this
class size.
the auditorium style seating for your classes, and like we do have that unique benefit of having like a relationship, right? And I think that cultivated a stronger,
community
geekdom for your profession, right? Like you got into it because they was into it. Like I was not a history buff, but when I sat down in Sammy Miller's class,
right, Dr.
without
Miller,
opening the book, I was like, dang, this man is about it. Like,
right.
like I'm not as passionate, but I'm going to do better in this class. I see the passion out of this person and the thing that they're doing. So it's just it's a dope, space to see people like really invest in in what they're doing, and I'm like, not checked out.
Right. And the content of the curriculum itself is different. Like the things that you're learning, in history, like everything is taught from a Black lens. And I just love that so much. Like this, it's like the elephant, how like you might be in another class and it's like the elephant in the room that nobody names, where we don't do that. Like we name it. We're like, if you're Black in business or history or art or whatever it is, this is how you're going to have to navigate, or these are some things that you're going to need to know because it's not common knowledge or something that's commonly celebrated in mainstream communities, if you will. Mainstream, of course, being predominantly white or predominantly non-Black at least. So I think that was something that I really honed in on, because when I was going there, I just I took sociology, criminal justice, because at that time you had to major in sociology to concentrate in criminal justice. Now they're two separate programs. But I actually fell in love with sociology more than I did criminal justice, just because of the things that I was learning and all the different contexts. It radicalized me in a substantial way.
Yeah, I think that's HBCUs in general, right?
But here I am. So before I get too far off the beaten path, and I also want to just name, like, as highly as we speak about these institutions, they're not without their flaws. The Black community in general, we have a lot of internalized anti-Blackness because of hundreds of years of oppression and all those things, and being forced to survive, conform as a means of survival. So there are a lot of elements of respectability politics. There are a lot of elements of misogynoir and homophobia. I remember when I was at Howard for my sociology program, we did a focus group, because that was the thing. It's like, okay, you have to know how to do qualitative studies and quantitative. So the qualitative study was the focus group. And we decided to do a project on what life was like for the LGBTQ students at at Howard. So what we found was that for the most part, they navigate pretty well when it comes to their peers. Their professors were bullying them. The professors were bullying them. And especially like if you were a woman, but you were masculine presented, or, things like that, you fell outside of those confines of what a cisgender, heterosexual woman is supposed to look like, or versus a cisgender heterosexual man. They will like do anything from like take passive aggressive shots at you to like full on call you out in class. And I'm like, these are esteemed people with PhDs.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's a cultural thing as much as it is, because we keep saying like, oh, well, it's lack of education. But you got people who are PhDs, JDs, and more, in our own communities, let alone outside.
I think it's also an age thing too.
That's
a generational thing too, because a lot of, especially at Howard, a lot of those professors, at least while I was there, between 02 through 05, they were older.
Yes,
yeah.
And they're tenured too.
And they're tenured. Yeah,
I agree with Wendell in that it's a generational kind of perspective too, but I'd yes and say it's an evolution too, right?
Yes.
Where it's like,
right,
if you can analogize the social norms of how people looked at Black people right, then you can clearly see, it makes it easier to transition away from those generational like traditions and say, oh, well, if we go back a few 50 years, people are looking at us saying the same things that I'm saying to the student in this classroom.
Right.
And not only that, but just
yeah,
taking a look at, and for me and you, Wendell, the history folk, once you really come to understand how intertwined all these isms are, whether it's racism, colorism, homophobia, fat phobia, transphobia, and how they're all commonly linked and originated from white supremacist patriarchy, then that's when you start to understand, like, okay, if we're going to really like decolonize our mindset and center ourselves around our identity and being pro-Black, then that means unpacking some things that we might not necessarily feel comfortable unpacking, but it's necessary, because until all of us are free, none of us are free. That includes people who lifestyles you might not agree with, like suck it up.
Yeah.
Grow up. But anyway.
That's true.
Let me see what else we got here. I'm like, okay, checking for questions. Oh, so let's talk a little bit about current events, because I know time is quickly getting away from us. So I want to tap into the gaming thing, because I know that that's something particularly Tiff and Hook, you guys are really big into gaming.
I'm gonna shut up on this one.
And there are so many esports leagues popping up in the HBCU community, and not only that, but full-on gaming programs. And got a shout out to Dedrin Sneed of Subsume and the work that he's doing to provide, access and stuff for schools in Atlanta. So, just talk a little bit about your, I guess, perspectives as gamers and how you feel about this new movement, if you will.
It's twofold, right? I think on the gamer and esports side, and even games as a general form of entertainment, it tends to follow the threads of its predecessors, whether it be in the entertainment space and like esports similarly, right? Where you first start to see us people of color more so in the player space,
right? More
than you do in the coaching space, if you will, or in the creation of the games space.
Right.
And so that is something that we actively work on a lot, right? I work with a group, Blacks in Gaming, and they're great, but like it's so many hidden figures, if you will, in that space.
Yeah, pun intended.
Yes, very much so, right? We don't even have time. That's a whole nother panel to talk about all this.
Right, facts. Look, write that down.
Listen, if you're happy that there are skin tones in Madden, thank a Black man. That's all I'm gonna say. And then, but just seeing that parallel, right, that we're trying to get into the space to create more inclusivity in games. I think it's encouraging to see academia taking up that flag.
Yes.
I am of the party who's like, man, I kind of, if it was only when I was in school that there was like a game development, just a
little in your feelings
program. Come on now.
Yes.
That was me. We would all the games, but I digress. Right, like it's just great to see them doing it. I think I am cautiously optimistic though, because there is that piece of the academic world where you focus so much on the craft that you lose the sensibility of how do I make money doing this, right? Like how do I turn this into a career?
Monetizing.
And Tiffany, I know you can attest to, like, from being from fine arts or performing arts, you get so invested in, I did this really good piece, but some people are selling squiggly lines for $500. What?
Man, man!
Somebody teach me how to do that. So,
Lord, you over here pulling triggers on Tiff.
So I am excited that folks are learning, right? But I do want to be. I want to make sure that we are also promoting that secondary piece, which is like, how do we make sure that we are getting into spaces where we're able to be
appreciated,
secure, right, and financially able to do this as well, and like learning those business pieces, those marketing pieces, how we branding ourselves, all of that is something that I feel like at this point, every sort of field, or well, every degree program, especially that focuses on fine arts and stuff, that they promote that piece more heavily, because you get out and you know what you're doing, but you have no idea how to like make money outside of the traditional like starving artist paths. And it's like there's literally the job I have right now is in proximity to entertainment. I don't need to know how to draw, how to act, how to write, how to code. I do work, y'all, but
right.
But all of those pieces, right, that they tell you got to be so, you know, you get pigeonholed in that, and I that's something
available.
For sure. I want to give Tiff a chance to speak on it a little bit as well, and then we're already at like 10 minutes left, so I want to give you guys time to shout yourselves out. But Tiff, I want you to kind of say your piece too.
I'm gonna try to be quick, but I definitely agree with Hook. Like I'm like, you know, a little skeptical about it, but I'm also excited about it because like before I moved into graphic design, I initially wanted to go to school for game art design.
Nice.
But it just wasn't like a thing really. Like I didn't know how to navigate that space to get to, like, I didn't know any black person doing game art design or anything like that. So I gravitated towards graphic design. But the fact that this is happening is like, it brings a smile to my face, because I'm like, yes, like this is how we get more of our people into these types of spaces, where, you know, back in the day, I couldn't even tell you how to start, like, other than go to school and hope you get it. But I'm glad these opportunities are presenting themselves, you know, so that we can, in these types of spaces, we can, you know, create these character designs or these games where we're represented at, like, you know, that's important. Always important. Always been important. Representation has always been important. So I'm excited.
Perfect segue. Check you out. So yes, I wanna give you all a chance to shout out your socials and such, and then I'll kind of give the shtick on I guess I'll do that now. So HBCU Con, as Tiff kind of implied, we're having it April 29th through May 1st. On the campus of my alma mater, Bowie State University. That's in gorgeous Prince George's County, Maryland, right in between Baltimore and Chocolate City, my hometown, DC. And we're going to be having a step show. We're having a gaming lounge and tournament that is sponsored by MagFest. Shout out to MagFest. We are having screenings courtesy of DC Anime Club. Shout out to them. And we're also going to have the Super Slay Multiverse of Fashion show, which is going to be just wonderful. Wendell is hard at work with that. We're working with Bad Wife, who's going to be showing her collections. Inwoo Fashion showing her collections. And then, of course, we're working with the Visual Communication and Digital Media Arts program at Bowie. I believe there is space we're looking for, you know, one or two more designers if you want to be involved. So feel free to hit us up.
Go ahead, and I'll add on to that.
I was just going to say, everything's going to be geeked out. Everything about this event is geeked out. The step show, everything. And of course, we have our Kickstarter that is live right now. We have 8 days left. And we're about 68 to 70% of the way there, I believe. So yeah, thank you so much. I can't even saying that. But yeah, just really excited and looking forward. And if you guys want more of this, we are having this panel live at the event. It will be a hybrid event, so you have the opportunity to attend virtually or in person. And we're going to be doing a different world. We're going to do a lot of our